Okay, let's cut through all the noise, right? Forget the rumors, forget all the speculation. If you really want to understand what Ripple has become, you have to follow the money. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to piece together their official corporate moves, their acquisitions, their investments, and reveal the financial giant they've been building, hiding in plain sight.
So, what is Ripple, really? You'd think that's a simple question, but the answer has gotten surprisingly complex. Whatever you think you know about Ripple, we're about to challenge that by looking at the hard evidence of where they've been putting their money.
If you ask most people, they'll tell you the same thing. Ripple's a cross-border payments company. And look, for a long time, that was pretty much true. But that simple answer, it's now just the tiny visible tip of a much larger iceberg. Because when you start looking at the actual moves they've been making, a totally different reality emerges. What we see on the surface is just a fraction of this far more ambitious, complete financial ecosystem that they've been building in the background.
All right, so let's pull back the curtain on this master plan. How does a company known for just one thing, payments, transform into, well, something else entirely?
And this is really the key. You have to think about it like a puzzle. Ripple has been finding and placing each piece very carefully. Things like secure digital vaults, banking services for the big players, corporate cash management, none of these are random. They're all part of a huge, ambitious final picture. Let's see how they put it all together.
Okay, so to see how this all started, we have to go back to 2018 and 2019. This is where Ripple laid down the essential groundwork, making a series of strategic moves that would really define their next decade of growth. Each of these early moves was super strategic. First up, back in 2018, they launched Xspring. Now, this wasn't an acquisition, this was their own investment arm, designed to pour fuel on their own ecosystem. Then you get to 2019, and boom, the MoneyGram partnership. This was a massive, real-world stress test for their core technology. And in that same year, they made a huge investment in Coil, which was a big signal that they were thinking way beyond just sending money around.
And they weren't messing around with the money either. We're talking $50 million into that MoneyGram deal. Now, you got to remember, back then, crypto was still kind of theoretical for a lot of people. This was a huge bet to prove their tech could actually work at scale in the real world.
Then there's the Coil grant. The number alone is just staggering, 1 billion XRP. But here's the really clever part. It's how they paid. They didn't just write a check. By using their own digital asset, XRP, they were basically supercharging their own ecosystem. It was a brilliant move. And then everything just stopped, on the outside at least. Between 2020 and 2022, the acquisitions went completely quiet. But this wasn't Ripple taking a break. Oh no, this was them being forced to change tactics because of one massive looming event. And of course, that event was the massive legal fight with the SEC, right here in the US. I mean, when you're facing that kind of regulatory storm in your home country, making big, splashy acquisitions is just way too risky. So they had to pivot hard. But pause definitely doesn't mean stop. They just shifted their focus inward. So while they weren't out there buying companies, they were doubling down on their core product, RippleNet, signing up new partners all over the world, and this is key, they started building out solutions for a whole new frontier, central bank digital currencies. CBDCs, basically government-run digital money. And then 2023 hits, and it's like the floodgates just burst open. As the legal picture started to clear up for them, Ripple came back to the market with this just incredible aggression that I don't think anyone really saw coming. This is when the puzzle really starts to take shape. Okay, before we get to the first huge purchase, we need to talk about this word, custody. Why does it matter so much? Well, think of it like this. It's the absolute foundation for serious finance. Without a super secure, regulated way to hold digital assets, big banks just can't get in the game. They can't do tokenization, they can't do trading, nothing. Custody is literally the key that unlocks the door for big institutions. So what's Ripple's first move? In May 2023, they drop $250 million, $250 million, to buy Medico, a top Swiss company in digital asset custody. Now, forget the price for a second. This was a massive statement. This was Ripple telling every big bank in the world, we are serious about earning your trust and we'll pay whatever it takes. This was the cornerstone of the whole puzzle. And the very next piece, it fit perfectly. In February of 2024, they buy Standard Custody.
And this move was just brilliant, strategically. With this one purchase, they get their hands on a critical license in the United States, basically opening the door to one of the biggest financial markets on the planet.
And that brings us to 2025. I mean, this year was just wild. It was easily the most aggressive year in Ripple's entire history. We're talking about a string of massive multi-million-dollar deals, one right after the other, at a speed that was almost dizzying.
The piece was just relentless. First, April rolls around, and they make their biggest move yet, a $1.25 billion deal for Scheiden Road. Now, this wasn't just buying a company. This was them building a full-blown prime brokerage. That's basically the high-roller bank for hedge funds and big institutions. Then, just a few months later in August, they snap up Rail to seriously upgrade their B2B payments and support their new stablecoin. Then, 2 months after that, G-Treasury, which lets big corporations manage all their cash flow right on Ripple's platform. And finally, they grab Palisade to get a stronger foothold in Europe. See? None of this was random. Each purchase was another pillar for their empire.
And so here we are, after all these years, after all these strategic moves, we get to the final reveal. This is the moment where all those puzzle pieces finally click together and we can see the whole picture.
And when you lay it all out like this, the logic is just crystal clear, right? It all started with building an ecosystem and proving the tech worked. Then, they laid the foundation, getting regulated custody in the most important markets. And only then did they build the really high-level services for institutions right on top of it.
So, let's go back to our original question. What is Ripple today? Well, it's definitely not just a payments company anymore. It's a global custodian with all the right licenses. It's an institutional prime broker. It's a platform for B2B payments and stablecoins. It's a provider of treasury infrastructure. And the engine for all of it? The XRPL ecosystem.
And building this empire was not cheap. The total price tag for this whole transformation is estimated to be over $3.5 billion. That's not just spending money. That is a calculated multi-billion-dollar bet that they are going to be a core pillar of the new financial system.
And the ultimate proof that the bet paid off? That came in November of 2025. Ripple announces a new funding round led by Wall Street titans like Citadel Securities. I mean, you can't get a bigger stamp of approval than that. The result? A staggering new valuation of $40 billion. That officially puts them in the major leagues of global fintech. Their grand strategy worked. So there you have it, a financial giant built right out in the open, piece by painstaking piece, over a decade. They went from a scrappy payment startup to a fundamental piece of new financial infrastructure. And it just leaves you with one massive question, right? If this is what they've managed to build so far, what on earth could they possibly do next?